love doing this part too because I get to meet all the ministers that come by and learn more about them. So today we're going to be introduced to Reverend Jerry. I think I said it right, it's Fetterly. He has been practicing religious science principles since 1998. He became a practitioner in 2001 and a minister in 2006. He was an assistant minister at the Center for Spiritual Living in Seattle. I'm going to put my glasses on. In 2006. In 2007, Reverend Jerry became executive director of United Centers for Spiritual Living, assisting in the relocation of CSL headquarters from Burbank, California to Golden, Colorado. And that was not an easy move. I can attest, I was there. So he helped to coordinate the facilities renovation while training staff and implementing new systems for the place in Colorado. In 2009, Reverend Jerry answered the call to become the senior minister for the Center for Spiritual Living in Midland, Texas. So we're represented in Texas, besides Dallas, because Dallas is a big city. So Midland, Texas, there's a center there. So while in Texas, Reverend Jerry served 3 years as a hospice minister volunteer, supporting patients in their spiritual questions, concerns, and prayer requests as they move through their transition. In 2013, Reverend Jerry accepted the invitation to become senior minister of the Creative Center for Spiritual Living in Escondido and served in that role for 5 years. He's been around, huh? Reverend Jerry's ministry is about encouraging and supporting people as they fully engage in life, realizing the truth that God is truly all there is. And of course, Reverend Catherine always has something to say about our guest ministers. She said Reverend Jerry is a fun-loving, intelligent minister. He was her mentee during his time in the ministerial school and has always stayed connected to Reverend Catherine. He's a wonderful chaplain, and his love and devotion to his chaplaincy has helped families during their times of transition. He's a blessing to CSL, and she is thrilled he is here with us today. So please welcome
Sorry for that, but I needed to have a little water after singing. I sang out lustily in that song. I love it. It brings us all together. So thank you for that great introduction. It is a great honor to be here today and to share with you some of my enthusiasm for this book, What's in the Way is the Way. Because what I notice is that many of us make judgments about what's good and what's bad. And what we do is we try and welcome all the good in our lives, and we try and push away anything that looks like it's not going to be good for us. But what I know is that just as this Mary O'Malley says in the book here, we need to go and look at what it is that we are fearful of. What is it that is inside of us that life is pushing a button that causes a reaction for us? So Reverend Catherine said that she gave me a title, By the Grace of God, which supports the month's theme of wholeness, which is a quality of God, which was also shared in the beautiful meditation this morning with the idea of the orange and the slices, and then how we bring the orange back together, because we know that we're all individual beings, but we're all connected. We are all whole with the one divine spirit, that one divine source of all there is. And so it is no accident that the title, By the Grace of God, because it is by the grace of God that we each move, that we each show up. But it also reminded me of my youth. And I don't know how many of you had mothers like mine, but my mother often reacted to situations and things that went on in life by saying, but by the grace of God, go on. So some of you may have heard that. Some of you may have said it. I know I have. Because what it is we, by that saying, are judging something as good and bad. And while our compassion goes out for those people who have whatever it is we don't want, we're giving thanks that we don't have by the grace of God. So if we remember that we are all one, we are all connected, and we're one with that source of life, we cannot be separate. We are not alone. So the whole message today about by the grace of God is to remind us that we are not separate. Just like the orange, the individual slices, we are all one. We are whole and connected. So this book, I have a feeling once in a while the mic gets on there. This book is great. I've had this book it came out about 1.5 years ago, and I've had this book and I've used it in many talks. You can see by the red thing. So I like what it has to say because it takes us into the inward journey. You know, most of us don't like things that make us uncomfortable. But we have to ask ourselves, what is it that is making me feel uncomfortable? Because nobody has that power but you to make yourself feel uncomfortable. A situation may arise, an event may arise that pushes your button. But you are the person that installed it. You are the person who can uninstall it. But you have to be willing. You have to be brave. You have to say, yes, I am going to go there. Now, not all of us are willing to do this, and we're at different stages in our life. Where sometimes we're stronger and we're more willing and more ready to go there and look at our shadow side. And other times it's not quite right. It's not quite the time. And so don't be hard on yourself. There is a perfect time and a perfect day. And it'll arise. And probably when you least expect it, it will show up. It will be there. So our religious science founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, said, life is not just something to be endured. It is to be lived in joy. It is a fullness without limit. So science of mind reminds us, and it's science of mind treatment. For those of you who are familiar in this theology, you know that we have a 5-step affirmative prayer. And the first step is to recognize that God is all there is. So when you understand that God is all there is, and you recognize the second step, that you are one with God, with this source, then you know you cannot be alone. It's impossible once you affirm those first 2 steps. And then the third step is the realization step, and that allows you to step into the shadow side that you are willing to heal and to pull forth. So it's not what happens to you in life, but how you react to what happens in your life. Somebody said that to me many years ago, and I love it today, and it's my affirmation whenever something is going on that I do not like, and I want to resist. That's my first impact. I ask myself to remember that it's not what's happening, it's how I am reacting to it. That is the key, and that's where the healing is. So also in addition to Mary O'Malley's book, I'm also doing a course. Some of you might have heard of Michael Singer. Michael Singer wrote The Untethered Soul. It's really deep. It's very much in alignment with this book. The ideas are really the same. And what it is that the basic tenets of that story, of that book, is that when we attach ourselves to the good things in our life, because we really like them, they're really good, and we want to hang on to them, we also push away those things that we don't want to. Either one of those is an attachment. Either one of those is an attachment to something. And when you do, you block the flow of life. Because we're like this river. this river that's running downstream. And in that flow, we don't want to hang on to those things which give us great joy, and because they block. It's like building a little dam in the river. The same way as when we resist something and say, I'm not going there. I don't want to hear about it. That's another little dam in the river. If you have the courage to blow up your dams, you will have more freedom in your life. You'll be in the present moment. We often talk in religious science about being in the present moment. But every time you hang on to something, whether it's good or whether you're resisting, you are not in the present moment. And why is that important? That's important because it's how we live our lives. Sometimes we don't understand it, and sometimes we forget it. We forget our teaching. But Mary O'Malley reminds us, she talks in here about there are 3 spells that keep us separate. They don't really keep us separate, they keep us separate in our minds. Our minds want to control us, isn't that funny? But it is our thinking which creates our life and how we react to our life. And so she talks about these spells, and she calls them foundational, operational, and hidden. Foundational. If you've read this book, you already know that a foundational is a belief that you are separate from life, that life is not safe. These come in the early stages of our life. They come when you're a young child, maybe a baby, and your needs are dependent on other people. So it's really about a me focus. The baby is a me focus, and it's others out there. So it's a separation. And then later on in life, something happens to you. And all of a sudden you feel life is not safe. And we start behaving that way. You can tell that with people who have had an abuse in their lives. Suddenly they want to start doing things like controlling their life. They want to control events because it wants to make them feel safe. And that's actually the next spell she talks about, which is called operational. Operational is, I must control life. And the other one is, I must do it right. And I'm not doing it right enough. Now, I don't know how many of you have had that belief, and maybe you still have that belief today. But I know in my early adult life, I believed that was true. I thought there was a right way to do things. And if I just knew the answer, life would be good. The other thing I tried to do is I tried to control life. I planned out things. I micromanaged events. I micromanaged my life. But what I found out along the way is, which I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, have found out, is life's not controllable. The only thing we know for certain is that the moment and now and the moment that's past, we do not know the moment tomorrow and the moment the next instant. And then the third spell she talks about is the hidden spell. And these are the most tenacious spells because we are not even aware that they're there. We've done such a great camouflage job of hiding them even from ourselves, and yet that is the way to the healing of ourselves. And the hidden is because those are the things where we make judgments on ourselves. I'm not doing it right. I'm wrong. I'm not lovable. I know that many of us come into religious science because we think that our life is not working the way we want it to work. Some catastrophe, some event, and maybe it's a series of things have been going on, and it's just not serving us. So when it was talked earlier about the soul and the soul cards, I love that because our soul is speaking to us, it's yearning for us to connect to the truth, and it's pulling us in, and it brings us to religious science. where we have a safe space to explore our hidden beliefs and then make changes in our life, to live the life that we truly want to live, that we really dream about. It allows us to free up those areas in our life that have been running our life. We have 95% of our life is run by a mind that we're not even totally aware of. It's running on autopilot, and it's running on autopilot from all of our past experiences. So you have a choice, and that's what Mary O'Malley talks about. You have a choice. You can either keep running your life like a hamster on a wheel, goes a lot of places, around and around and around, doesn't go forward. Or you can choose to examine it, look at it, step into the shadow, and say, why am I reacting that way? Because you know that you are the one with the power. You have free will. There is no one else that has that power over you. So Mary O'Malley reminds us that trying to get rid of fear only causes more fear. The way out is to get to know the fear. And that reminds me that one of my favorite acronyms about fear is forgetting everything's all right. And if you've been in religious science very long, you know that the other acronym is false evidence appearing real. Because that what we see in front of us, we think is real, when we remember that we are one with this divine spirit, with the divine creator of all that there is, that the highest good is always for us. The highest good is our life. It's only what we do with it and how we react to it. So when we think that we need to control the life, we're resisting it because we're afraid of something. So when we run into a situation where we find ourselves, and the more you do this, the more study you do, the more self-awareness you do, the more you'll start realizing, I've been here before. I wonder why I'm doing that. I've seen this behavior in myself before. Why am I reacting that way? And if you're willing to do that, you're willing to go look at the source. And when you do, you shed the light on it. And when you shed the light on it, it's revealed to be false evidence. And at that moment, there is a healing. It's instantaneous. Because it no longer has any power over you. It is all good. It's all God. I like the fact that in the Michael Singer books, and I'm also doing a course right now on living a surrendered life. And what I like about that is not only dealing with the untethered soul premises about really there is nothing standing in our way except us, that we can let go of the moments that we want to hang on to, and we can let them flow on and just really enjoy them in the moment, then let them pass on, and then not resist those other points. There is a difference between surrender and giving up and being fully present in the moment. Surrendering is recognizing that you are one with the divine and you trust. You trust in the higher power, that higher source of all that there is. That there is an infinite good in your life and you ought to have it. M.S. Curtis Hopkins said this. There is good in your life and you ought to have it. So when we remember that, we can give ourselves over to life. And there's a saying in here about the fact that we tend to want to do life rather than be life. And when you think about our connection with the divine, you realize that God is operating through you. You are the only expression, the only way God can be expressed. So you have an important job to do. You have this job that you have to be willing to trust and open yourself up and let the divine operate in through you. When you're trying to control life, when you're trying to control events, you're trying to do life because you think there's a right way to do it. And you know the right way to do that. I love it when I'm talking to people or counseling people, and I get them all the way down to they see the truth, and then they jump back into their story. It's like, but you don't understand. But it's the same story. It is the same story that's been running their life, and it is the story that keeps you blocked from your goodness. So if you can give up the story, if you can give up your identity with that story, you can move in and through it. And some of us, we really don't know how to ask for help from the divine. You know, in our 5-step treatment, we talk about the fact that the realization step is absolutely that point in which we accept usually 180 degrees from whatever is facing us. Because whatever is facing us is something we really don't know what to deal with. But there's a story in here which I like in this chapter 4 that says you are not alone. And it's about a mother with an unborn child, and the mother starts to hemorrhage, and she starts to get weak, and she starts to get faint, and she's worried about calling for 911, but before she can call, she kind of passes out. And then she asks for help for her unborn child. She does this prayer, and she feels the presence. There is a presence that absolutely is there. And so she feels calm. She doesn't feel anxious, and she lets it go. And then that energy kind of dissipates, and she returns to being cold on the floor, and she starts to get scared again. And she asks for help for herself. When we understand that we are deserving of all the good, we can ask for help. And when she did that, everything happened. This energy came back in and surrounded her. She felt calm. She felt where she could dial 911 again. And she was able to get help. And so that message is, you're not alone. You have to be willing to reach out and connect with Spirit. Reach out and connect. And Spirit shows up in all of us, right? So when we reach out, Spirit can show up in the help of our friends, in the help of our staff, the help of anybody who exists in our life. It's all the divine intervention. So let me just wrap this, close it with the reading that I so enjoyed. The reading by a practitioner to start this spiritual message, because I wanted to end this way. So I think it's a perfect bookend. It kind of puts this all together. Where Miriam Alley writes, in order to discover that you are not alone, it's important to explore the whole concept of God. Down through history, human beings have lived with some inkling that there is something bigger than us in charge. We are now ready to take another step in our evolution of understanding God, that God is a verb. It is not a being or a thing that can be defined. Rather, it is a being expressed in and through as everything, including you. So God is the unified field that permeates and animates all of life. And so the question to ask yourself is, do you want to be happy or not? Do you want freedom or not? You have free will. You choose your thoughts. The choice is yours. Thank you.